All right. We're a little early, and that's okay. We'll let people filter in here and get it rocking on Monday night. Appreciate you guys taking time out, hanging out with me, asking great questions. We do these lives every Monday and Wednesday, every single week at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. Let a few more people filter in here, and then I'll go over my bingo card and the last few items that are left on it here in 2025. If we're going to get a bingo and see a 3 or 4 digit XRP, which I think still on the cards here. I know a lot of people are getting antsy. We're down to the last couple weeks of the year. People just don't see how it can happen. Things can change in a very short period of time, like an extremely short period of time. It only takes a few variables in macroeconomics, and all the charts that you see are completely different. If you want to think of a time where a situation like that transpired, I don't know if you were here in 2020 or not, but it was to the downside very quickly when the world was shutting down. And that news broke and the markets broke. Okay. There is going to be a similar instance that happens here, but it's going to be a melt up scenario. The economic shifts that are about to take place potentially in the next 2 weeks are going to be the most euphoric and also catastrophic of our lifetime, probably. Not probably, it will be. There's not going to be anything like this for the next 100+ years easily. So if you're here, you're watching, you understand what's going on, you're in the know, God bless you. You've been given an opportunity and a chance to see things in a way before other people even realize that they're going on and have the ability to take advantage of it. So let's get into the bingo card. You guys, we saw earlier today, Eleanor Terrett came out and said that no Clarity Act this year, which is exactly what I've been saying since I was on Capitol Hill in June when they voted on the Genius Act. I was there talking to congressmen and women, and they didn't feel like they were going to get that Clarity Act passed this year. They said Genius Act, yeah, they thought they would get that passed. Clarity, they felt like 2026. And what do you know? Here we are, government shutdown and all, I know. But nonetheless, 2026 is when we're going to get the Clarity Act. So we have a golden window here. Well, I'll even read y'all part of what I got earlier today from the Market Structure Legislation Working Committee. So this is just kind of where things stand. As the market, a markup before the holiday recess is off the table, while the Senate Banking Chair T. Scott has continued to push for the committee to markup this week. Procedural notice requirements and ongoing Democratic feedback have been bipartisan markup before the senators depart. This could be too difficult to pull off. So now January represents the earliest realistic window, likely the week of the 12th or the 26th. However, January 26th may be difficult for a markup date, as the government funding is set to expire on the 30th. This most likely scenario is the release of additional legislative text for industry review over the holiday break, followed by committee action as members return to Washington after recess. So we have the privilege of being on the digital chamber, and we do propose legislation to the regulatory bodies, the CFTC, the SEC, how they're going to be tokenizing all of these financial products, what that's going to look like on chain, and then the nuances around the technology and the capabilities of the technology that play into the compliance that go along with that, right? So there's a lot of people out there that want to tout that they know this or that. I'm boots on the ground. Like, I was in the halls of Congress, talking to the congressmen, trying to get them to pass the Genius Act and the Clarity Act. When I talk, like, it's not coming from, I read something on the internet. It is from conversations that I've had with real people. So that's how I knew, again, the Clarity Act wasn't going to be till 2026. And here we are. We have the full verification of that today, 2 weeks before the end of the year. So that pushes this out. Again, there's a golden window here for XRP, where it does have clarity of the US and can be used, and other assets can't until that Clarity Act is passed. Because we have the lawsuit between the SEC and Ripple, and we know XRP in and of itself is not a security. And we also have the listing on Domino as a commodity. You've also got it now where it can be collateral across other networks and for other financial products. We had the CME go live for that in Seoul. Big deal. I don't know how to impress upon you guys like the culmination of things that are happening here at the end of the year that have just been tick off the bingo card. So let's get to the other three pieces of the bingo card, and then we'll get into the awesome questions that you guys have for me. So, you know, like the first one, y'all have heard me say 1,000 times, and I'm going to continue to beat the drum because I know it's going to happen. We're going to see a spike in oil. Now, that's likely going to be a spike in WTI crude. Okay. However, I don't know that it needs to impact the US substantially. If it's priced in dollars, cool. I do think that there will be some jump there. I do have an ongoing bet with another family office that it hits $100 by the end of the year. We'll see on that. I just need a big move in oil is really all it's going to take. 20, 25%, 30% to the upside in a very short period of time. That's enough to cause inflation in Japan. They are set to raise interest rates on Friday this week from the BOJ. We lowered last week at the FOMC there with the Fed. So now those spreads are being squeezed even tighter. And you're already starting to see this in Bitcoin. We started to see the market bleed off today. I think this is the beginning of the slow roll into the reverse carry trade unwinding at scale globally, right here at the end of the year, like I've been talking about for 18 months. So oil is the last piece of that. They could probably try to backstop this and kick the can and do some things. If oil goes, they're just going to lean into it. They're going to hike 50, 75 basis points because they will have to. They won't have a choice there because of the inflation in their economy in Japan. And so if that happens, the cascade and the pace at which all of this will unwind will be exacerbated. If they're able to kind of step it down 25 basis points at a time, either here in the US and then up there in Japan, markets price in the next 6 months, right? So we know this rate hike is coming, but people are pricing 25 basis points. If they go 50, if they go 75, if they go a whole point, it's game over. And the reason they would do that is oil. So maybe they get the 25 bips and then the next week oil goes and they have to, have an emergency meeting. Most of the time, this is emergency meetings when these types of moves from central banks happen. It's normally not a scheduled rate hike or rate reduction that they've already kind of touted and run out in front of people to make sure that the markets have assurance. So does that happen this week? Does it happen next week? Who knows? Does it happen at the very end of the year? I still got 15 days here. I know a lot of people are like, you're going to move the goalpost. If I was going to move the goalpost, I'd have done moved the goalpost by now. I said 99.999999% sure this year. And this is probably a good time for my disclaimer. I'm just one dude. I'm a crazy guy on the internet. You probably shouldn't listen to me. It's for entertainment and educational purposes only. You should always speak with a financial advisor before making any investment decisions. If you need a financial advisor that'll advise you on your crypto, you can always work with Digital Wealth Partners. They are a Digital Ascension Group company. They are the only RIA in the world, really, that will advise you on your crypto. So you can just go to digitalwealthpartners.net. So back to the other bingo cards, the other squares on my bingo card. So oil, spike in oil, mainly denominated in yen. I need a large move to the upside in yen versus oil. All right. Y'all got that one. And then the other two are the Epstein docs, which are, oh, they just happened to come out this Friday, the same day that they are going to raise interest rates in Japan. Man, that's wild that would coincide like that. I wonder what's going to be in those documents. I wonder if they're going to be any way associated with Bitcoin or Tether. I wonder if there's going to be any implications for either one of those assets if there were, documentation released that Epstein used them in some fashion. I guess we'll have to see. But I have a strong feeling that there might be. So that's another square. And then the last square before we have a full card blacked out from all the other stuff that I've been right about this year is the BlackRock ETF. And there's just so happens to be a BlackRock Trust ETF that they filed an A8 for, or an 8A for the other day. All they have to do is file the S1 and say what's actually going to be in that ETF. I wonder what would happen if the majority of that ETF was XRP. Every time Brad Garlinghouse has been asked about an ETF from BlackRock, he said that there's an NDA and he can't say anything. Every time that Larry Fink has been asked about the same thing on national television, he's also said, well, you don't want me to talk about that. I can't talk about that. There's a there, right? We saw that they listed, and again, this could have just been a red herring or a wild goose chase, or maybe just foreshadowing. But in November of 2023, there was a BlackRock iShares XRP ETF trust that was filed in Delaware. And then it was swept under the rug because it had such significant momentum on the market when people found out or found that. And then they said, the DOJ, excuse me, Department of Justice was investigating, and then we never heard anything else about it. So here we are 2 years later. We've got the ETFs. A lot of spot ETFs for XRP have been launched. They're eating through the supply that's available on the OTC desks and the dark pools, and it's about out. It's about empty. There's not a whole lot left over there. Maybe a couple 100 million left on the OTC and the dark pools. We saw 21 shares was acquired by FalconX. FalconX runs a dark pool, and they're not going to be selling any of that XRP that they have in that dark pool to anybody else. I bet they're going to be funding their own ETF with that. I mean, because that would make just business sense, right? You wouldn't be feeding your competitors. So that takes that right off the market too. And we're really down to the end of it here for the supply shock to happen. And I know, again, people are like, how can this take place in 15 days? Sit down, enjoy the holidays, and I'm excited. We've got these three pieces, these three squares for all this to roll out to be 3 or 4 digits here in 2025. But all those are easily doable this year. There's nothing on that. Oil could absolutely spike this year. BlackRock could absolutely launch their ETF for XRP this year. And we know we're going to get the Epstein docs on Friday. Those three things happen, you see a 3 or 4 digit XRP. And it's not those things alone. Those things have cascading effects, ripple effects, if you will, that will cause the price of XRP to skyrocket from supply shock and then be used on the back end settlement of the stock market. Again, another thing that I was right about was Project Ion, the DTC rolling out, instant settlement on the back end of the stock market, reconciliation of trades first before they tokenize stocks. Can't make it up. If you want to go back and watch the videos, put them out 18 months ago. And it's been, and again, there's been little bits and pieces here, that have kind of fallen into place. There's been some regulation. The OCC now allows banks to hold crypto to be able to pay for fees on networks. Like, that's a piece that has to be in place, right? You saw NASDAQ today come out and say that, the SEC is giving them the green light to be able to move to, or actually they sent it to the SEC for approval for 23/5. So not 24/5, 23 hours a day, 5 days a week, the stock market will be trading in the near future. For tokenization of stocks, And this is the piece that I don't think people really understand. You could trade that amount of time without the stock market itself being tokenized. You just need back-end settlement that moves 24/7, 365. We have that. The XRPL has been running for 13 years straight, only ever been paused twice. So, again, highly confident that that is the way that they're going to let that roll, and things are going to be moving in the very near future. So that's how I wanted to start it off tonight. Appreciate you guys, hanging out and listening to me ramble on. We'll go ahead and jump into all of the questions over here on YouTube, on TikTok, X. Facebook is down right now, but should be recovered here in the near future. So without further ado, we'll jump into it. We got I Am the Key. He says, Jake, my guy, now that XRP is officially deemed as collateral, will it be taken off exchanges soon? I've talked about this for a long time. Yes, in my personal opinion, it will be very difficult for the average person to be able to purchase XRP. It'll be for institutions and enterprises. With the CFTC, labeling it as a commodity effectively, alongside Bitcoin and ETH, and it can now be used as collateral. And you've got, a prime broker that's pretty excited about doing some cool stuff with XRP as collateral. I don't know that there's going to be much available on exchanges. I think this whole landscape, and I talked about this in a video I put out for what crypto looks like in 2026, the whole landscape is going to look completely different. Especially when I'm right at the end of this year, you're going to see a complete shift in the way this whole industry operates. You got Fidelity with a banking license. You got PayPal applying for a banking license. A lot of these fintechs are going to be offering these services. You got Uphold applying for their ability to sell securities here in the US. There's going to be all these platforms that settle value between all the different things listed on their platform. You'll be able to trade a security for your crypto. You'll be able to trade a commodity for your crypto. It'll all be interoperable, right? And over the long term, the cool part would be if you could pay for your groceries with your Apple stock and not have to swap it back to dollars. I don't know if the US government's going to let you get away with that. As long as they're able to take a piece of that transaction in taxes and take it in dollars, probably, right? They're still going to take their cut. But if it's a smart contract and you have, an escrow, an atomic settlement between two counterparties in exchange of value, and there's a built-in piece for the IRS or whatever, the Treasury, whoever's going to be, putting out our taxes in the future, they're absolutely going to go for that, because then they don't have to wait till the end of the year for people to be able to reconcile their taxes. They're going to be getting it real time, and then they can use that money to make money. There's not a delay in payment for them either. So there's a big incentive for the US government to move to, tokenized deposits and all this other stuff. So we've got all those things happening. I think exchanges could be rolled up in 2026. I see that a lot of investment banks may be buying exchanges, especially when we see Tether collapse. There's going to be a huge devaluation on Bitfinex for one. They're very closely tied to Tether, and then OKX, Huobi. There's a bunch of other exchanges out there that I think may have wink wink nod deals for roll-ups here in 2026 in the near future. So there'll be a huge consolidation, and with that, I've told you guys this before. They didn't build out sub accounts for people to hold the bearer asset. They built out omnibus accounts to be able to create financial products with these assets and then sell them to you as some type of security. That's what the investment banks did. We have been championing, segregated bankruptcy remote insured accounts, and Anchorage, saw the vision and worked with us on that. I think Fidelity probably is figuring that out also, but they're the next closest. There really isn't anybody that's working on that solution for people that are holding the bearer asset or want to continue to hold their crypto. They're going to strip the crypto out of these exchanges that they acquire and roll them up into financial products and sell them through securities offerings just like they have with the other ETFs and ETPs or the DATs. And they'll continue to roll out cool new products. I like that part. I think that structuring financial products and derivatives is fun. But, you know, that's really what they built their infrastructure for. And, you know, back to the point here, I don't think you're going to have a whole lot of availability for XRP. Now, through the DEX, there will always be availability. But for your ability to access the DEX, I don't know if you're going to have to be a known party. I don't know how they're going to regulate all that, right? They need a decentralized exchange for the institutions to be able to adopt this, but they're going to want to know who is participating in those ecosystems. That's why you have permission domains and permission dexes, you know, being voted on the XRPL. Both of those we've had David Schwartz talk about. And that's, you know, part of the institutional adoption at scale. And that's the other reason that we want to work with people to structure your stuff so you are an institution effectively that's holding the XRP. You're not a person. If you're holding it through a corporation or through a trust, you're going to be able to participate in these ecosystems. There's no downside to holding your assets inside of an entity or a trust. There are downsides to holding it in your personal name and potential losses later on, right? People are concerned about confiscation. I'm not really worried about that. I don't think they need our XRP. I had enough conversations about it to know that probably not. But Jimmy Valley thought that it was reasonable to put together a valuation committee and make sure that if that were to happen, we would get the fair market value for it, which I appreciate. Shout out to Jimmy. But separate of that, you know, it was only individuals that had their gold taken from them in 1933. I don't think they came after any large corporations. So if you just happen to be a corporation and use it for your treasury, I think you're probably going to be looked on pretty favorable. So anyway, if you want to, you know, work with us to set up a corporation, happy to do that, but at least start looking into it. If not now, post price appreciation. We got Amani. They say, hey, Jake, now that BlackRock issues securitized to tokenize BIDL and the CEO of Securitize introduced Ripple to Flare creators for like Hugo, surely BlackRock will stake their XRP ETF in Flare, don't you think? No, I don't. Now, if you mean the underlying XRP itself, so that they're not going to be able to stake the tokenized security on Flare. But the XRP that backs the interest one-to-one in the ETF, they'll allow for, it has to be disclosed, right? So in whatever filing you put there for the S1, like there are staking Solana ETFs and ETH, you have to disclose what mechanism you're going to be using in the future to be able to drive additional value and how you're mitigating risk on that. Because these ETFs are one-to-one, right? So if there are, you're effectively the first lien holder with the derivative that you're buying. And if it were to be rehypothecated or used in some other fashion, you would need to know that. It wouldn't be like, we can just go do this in DeFi and not tell all of the investors in this product. They're very strict about that. Now, a DAT has much more flexibility than an ETF. And that's why I think Evernorth is going to be extremely successful here in the US with Ashish Burla and Michael Arrington and David Schwartz. They do want to use DeFi protocol. They literally have said, we want to seed DeFi protocols on the XRPL and other networks. You now have XRP, wrapped XRP available on Solana as collateral. So like, this is the thing. There was a guy that was talking with, you know, one of the Ripple execs there from Solana. And he said, you know, now that XRP can be held on our blockchain, it's kind of like dollars in bank accounts all around the world, effectively making XRP the global reserve digital asset in more or less words. And now that it can be used as collateral for traditional markets and prime brokers, and now on other chains, I've said this time and time again, and I'm going to continue to repeat it. And when it happens, you guys are going to be like, yep, called that one. XRP will become a tier 1 asset designated by the BIS. That's not on my bingo card. I don't know if that happens this year or not, but I do think that it is going to happen in the very near future. And alongside gold, oil, and, you know, treasuries, multiple sovereign treasuries that are backed by those items, including XRP, I think will be premium collateral for derivatives and other stuff. Like there was a lady that she's a doctor. She actually very well spoken. A few people have shared her video, and she talks about how important it is for XRP to be used as collateral. It is what locks up all of the XRP and causes this supply shock, right? Like there's not, there sounds like there's a lot. There's 100 billion XRP. There's really only, 52 billion available outside of Ripple's escrow. And then you've got all of that locked up in derivatives and smart contracts and DeFi and ETFs and inside DATs. There's not a whole lot available to move around the value. And that's what I've been saying for a long time. You got total supply, you got circulating supply, and then you have available supply. Not a whole lot of available supply. So I don't think that BlackRock will be staking their XRP inside of Flare Protocol to produce returns. I think that they will likely work with prime brokers and other institutional partners to be able to facilitate returns on XRP. And they'll have to be very meticulous about how they do that inside of an ETF because of the regulatory requirements of an ETF and the no rehypothecation type thing. Ron says, Sir Legend, what's up, dude? Just curious if you have or will have any products for people who religiously need to avoid usury or interest. Absolutely. We're working on Sharia law. It'll probably be mid to late 2026 when we work with the attorneys there in Dubai or Abu Dhabi to structure that. So it's coming. I know that it is absolutely something that people want. And we do have clients that we work with to hold their digital assets in custody. But until we have, Sharia compliant products, they're kind of limited in what they can do. Who's your daddy? Says, no stealing my name. Oh, Jake is. Got it listed at the end there. I am only my boy's daddy. That's the only person. 100% see Japanese reverse carry trade playing out. Timing being influenced. Shouldn't we be near $10 now that the ETFs have launched? Much appreciation for all that you share and invaluable knowledge. Again, OTC desk and dark pools, once the volume is enough to be able to eat through the supply there, yes, it'll move to the exchanges and we will absolutely see FOMO ensue on XRP. So, until we have enough come through there, and again, like you mentioned, timing is quite coincidental for how all this is playing out here. For those that can, see what's going on and think critically, it's a fun time. Amy, she says, hey, Jake, thank you so much for educating me on XRP. I have a friend that is a tax professional. She is asking if you're hiring, and if so, how does she contact you? Yeah, we would love to talk to her, Amy. If you want to email, we don't have an HR email. Let's do info@digitalfamilyoffice.io. And I probably, my team's going to kill me because we do get a lot of inbound on people that want to work with us, which is awesome, by the way. I'm so incredibly grateful, and I feel so blessed that so many cool people want to come work on what we're doing and provide value to other people. It's super humbling and, again, incredible to be a part of. We are at the point where we're hiring top tier people at this point. So if you don't have 5 to 10 years experience in a field, if you haven't worked with high net worth individuals managing hundreds of millions of dollars, if you aren't one of the best in your field dealing with crypto in particular, I don't know that we will make the hire because we want to make sure that we are absolutely, providing the best service possible to our clients. But if you feel like you are in that category, please reach out to info@digitalfamilyoffice.io. Oh, we have a careers page on the website, according to my wife. The tea lady has spoken. cheers to the tea lady. So if you want to go to digitalfamilyoffice.io, there's a careers page. I think we also have some job postings listed over there on LinkedIn. Yeah, so look forward to hearing from her. She sounds awesome. Cheyenne, hey, I think I may have got you this time. How long will we see the bloodbath of the reverse carry trade before we see the uprise? I think it'll be quick. So traditional markets have limit down. When we saw the reverse carry trade start to unwind in August of last year, we saw 13% down in one day. It was limit down twice, and then they halted trading until they could kind of shore things up. If they move the market to 25.3, or sorry, 23.5, and it's on blockchain and instant settlement on the back end, I don't know that you're going to have those limits any longer. Those limits and safeguards are put in place to protect the clearinghouses and the brokers because they've got to reconcile all those trades. But if all the trades were reconciled real time, there really wouldn't be a whole lot of justification for those breakers. Now, I'm sure they probably still want them in there because they want people to calm down. Like that's the whole point of the circuit breakers on the stock market and other stuff is like, okay, people, like take a breath. We're going to shut it down for 45 minutes and try to cool things off here. Collect yourselves and don't be so emotional when the market opens back up. That's kind of the gist of why they do that. I think it could last a couple days. 24, 48 hours is kind of my thinking on it. It could be faster. It could take longer. I don't think it'll be a slow bleed, though. I think it's going to be a catastrophic, I don't know if you guys have seen that meme where the guy's like holding onto the red candle, like shaking as he goes down. I think that's how it's going to look on the chart. And I think everything will be affected. I don't think it's going to be the liquidity that's been put to work from the Bank of Japan that they've loaned out, tens of trillions of dollars. It is everywhere. I listened to Alex Jones talk about this. Now everybody's talking about it. I've been talking about it for a long time, which is fine. Because it's important. Like this is the largest financial crisis of our lifetime, like larger than the great GFC, larger than the dot-com boom, exponentially larger than all of those. This is $20 trillion effectively that's going to get sucked out of markets. So I don't think gold and silver are going to perform like he said. He thinks that they're going to go up during this. I think the opposite. I think that there's a ton of paper gold and silver and leverage built into both of those. I know silver's at $64. Shout out to the people that are stacking a bunch of silver or were stacking a bunch of silver when it was 13, 15, 18, 20, 22, 25, 30 bucks. You're doing great. Good for you. I rotated out of all my precious metals. Silver was at like 45 when I sold the last bit of that. And then gold was at 3,500 when I sold all my gold. And I rolled all that into XRP. So that was my emergency fund. Don't have it anymore. I'm all XRP. So I think, like she was asking a question about the first carry trade. 24 or 48 hours is my best guess. Could take longer, could be less. But that if you had, gun to my head, that's my guesstimate. OMG Tracer, they say, Jake, would it be a good idea to bet on Judy Sheldon being next up for the Fed chair given her current odds? Thanks. Stay fly like an eagle. Oh, you must have listened to my my post. Appreciate that. Judy is awesome. Judy is a bad mamma jamma. I don't know if you guys know who Judy Sheldon is or not, but she was Trump's nominee for the Fed. She obviously didn't get that position. Jerome Powell got it. But I do think that she's going to be extremely influential. And I do think she will be either the Fed chair or at the Treasury in some capacity. Maybe Yellen's spot, if the Treasury does take over the economics here in the U.S. I want to believe that just as much as everybody else. we still got to play with nice with the IRS until that's an actual thing. Okay. And that's, everybody's like, taxes are theft. They are, but I also don't want to go to federal prison. So how about we just play by the rules and use the tax code and offset it, and then we both win, right? Like, you don't have to pay a whole bunch of taxes and you don't have to go to jail. That sounds good to me. But anyway, back to Judy. Yeah, I do think she probably gets that spot. I haven't seen her odds on Polymarket, but I'd vote for her. Man, you guys are running up the chat tonight. Appreciate you guys hanging out with me on a Monday. And hopefully, y'all are going to have a good week. Hopefully it's off to a good start. We got Chop Master. He says, Jake the Snake, how many months till supply shock? I'm landing around 6 to 8. Sound right? Any fresh BlackRock ETF chatter since the Ghosts filings? Again, I think there's a couple $100 million left on the OTC and dark pools. That's weeks, not months. Just so you guys know, before there's a huge supply shock. And that doesn't count if we could see a BlackRock ETF here in 2025, which is, again, on my bingo card. So we'll have to see. But I do think it could happen much faster than what you've laid out there. Appreciate the super chat. We've got another one. We've got Almighty AC. He said, Jake, no, you can't give financial advice. But if you were in my shoes, worked a 9 to 5, and believed XRP was going $750 soon, would you take out a loan and buy as much XRP as I can? Always pay loan back. I'm not a financial advisor. I'll say this. There have been times when I've taken big risks in my life and they have paid off. And there have been other times when I've taken big risks in my life and they royally screwed me. So that's up to you. That what you're talking about there is what I would consider a big risk. If I could not service the debt on something and I borrowed the money, as a fiduciary, I should not even entertain that. However, like I stated, there have been times where it's worked out for me. I can't give you financial advice. I can't tell you when stuff's going to happen. These are all macroeconomic events that have to play out. Now, I can get on here and say that, again, my bingo card says they could all happen in 2025. And I think that they will, but I'm 99.99999. There's still a very, 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 very small chance that it doesn't happen that quickly. I do think weeks, not months, but you should never over leverage yourself. That's never a good idea, ever. If you're playing with rent money, if you're playing with something that's you need your survival stuff covered at a minimum, and maybe you're living on ramen, maybe you're scrimping every little penny in order to be able to stack as much as you can while you got an opportunity. I'm cool with that. But like leveraging your house or other assets, like you don't want to put your survival at stake. You don't want to put yourself in a worse situation than you already are if it doesn't play out in a very limited time frame. So I would probably say no, but there have been times when I've done it. So that's a little hypocritical. So I don't know if that's the answer you're looking for. Again, I can't tell you what to do. You telling me you work a 9 to 5 doesn't give me a whole lot of you could be a doctor. You're probably not working a 9 to 5 if you're a doctor. You could be a CFO for a large major corporation making, $500,000 to $700,000 a year. You could also be a dude at McDonald's. I don't know. And not to degrade anybody working at McDonald's. Everybody's has a lot of value, right? Depending on what you're compensated is what I'm talking about there. So yeah, I wouldn't do it. I can't tell you to do it. I've done it, but I can't tell you to do it. Steve, he says, "Hey, legend, Carbon2 here. What's up, dude? Appreciate you being in the chat and in the mastermind." He says, "Would you mind walking across the hall from your office and asking BlackRock when their ETF is going live?" Merry Christmas, Steve. Swell was right across the street from BlackRock this year. And I did go in that building while I was there. But I do not office across from BlackRock. We do have a Fed window that's about 30 feet from my desk, but it's not at BlackRock. We got this person. Thank you for the super chat. They say, "Hey, Jake, this week feels like a go week." I would agree. This one's going to be fun. Are we going to see a spike in oil before the Bank of Japan's decision on Friday? I don't know. Their decision on Friday will actually be our late Thursday. I'll be late Thursday, like 10 p.m. Central Standard Time. When we saw that happen on a Sunday, their Monday, our Sunday, we started to see the Nikkei bleed hard, 17% down. And then that, rolled into the S&P the next day. So that being on a Thursday this week, our time, not Japan time, but our time, we have a full day where the market's open on Friday. And you've got the Epstein docs coming out Friday. Here, our time, domestic in the US. If there's fragility in the market, that could cause some things to happen. And then we've got some things going on in the Middle East and also in Venezuela that could absolutely impact oil. I'm going to continue to beat the drum. It backs them into a corner. I don't care about the 25 basis point hike on Friday. It's priced into the market already. It needs to be more than 25 basis point if we're going to see the full reverse carry trade unwind. There's going to be some, and you're already starting to see some sell-off in the market before leading up to that, but it's not going to be the, big hitter when the whole market collapses. I think there's a 50% haircut across the board. I've said that before. I think gold pulls back to 2,000 or 2,100. The S&P, it's all going to be ugly. There'll be a complete repricing. But I think that'll also make its way to consumer goods also, which will be good for most people. Like if your rent and your eggs and your groceries and everything else, all the price got cut in half, do you think you'd feel a lot wealthier? I would. If my money went twice as far. And that would be from all the margin and leverage being sucked out of the market. And also these progressive tech being implemented in different facets of the economy to be able to create efficiencies and see deflation. Our money actually appreciating. What a thought. So yeah, it's possible that oil goes this week, but it could also be following on. It could be they do the 25 basis points, and then right before Christmas, we see oil go, and then it's the real deal. We've got Chris. He says, "Jake, God bless you. SEC ends Ondo probate. Or Ondo probate. Jeez, I'm so used to estate planning. Thoughts? XRP at $1.88 with a sad face. Why are you sad, my man? Like this is the buying opportunity of a lifetime. If you didn't, if you're here now, I can't give you financial advice. Sorry. For me, I can talk about what I'm doing. I am mega bullish right now, continuing to buy. Like this is the longest that we've been in fear on the fear and greed index for crypto ever. Like I do not know how to impress upon you how bullish that makes me, that we're about to see substantial upside in XRP in particular. And for it to be $1.88 right now is a godsend. If it was $5, you know, I know people would be happy about $5. It'd be twice as expensive. You'd be able to buy half as much. Like $1.88 is still like, imagine buying Bitcoin at $1.88 when Bitcoin was trading at $2 and $3 and came back to $1.88. If you knew it was going to go where it went, like what would you do in that situation? And again, I'm not telling anybody to mortgage their house or sell their kidney or do anything that is a bad choice. Okay. However, if you know, when opportunities present themselves, people that have dry powder can take advantage of them. I'll just say it that way. Ripple gets conditional OCC approval as a bank license. XRP partners with Solana and ETH. Lots of layers. What's next? Man, is it 2027 yet? 2027 XRP will be $10,000 a piece. So I know we're all looking forward to that. 2026 is going to be a lot of fun. 2026 is going to be the Cambrian explosion, the adoption of crypto at scale across global markets, the year for clarity, and all the other fun stuff that we've been waiting, some of us 8-9 years for, that have held XRP since the last all-time high. Wayne, my man, he says, do you think the market has priced in the Bank of Japan interest rate rise, or will the market crash the second they actually announce it? What is your prediction for how this plays out for XRP by end of Friday? Well, markets are normally forward-facing. They normally price in the next 6 months. And they're always forward-looking. So here in the US, when we come out and we say that we're raising interest rates or lowering interest rates, it gets priced in fairly quickly. Japan has been a little different. So Japan came out and said that they were raising interest rates. Both times they raised interest rates in 2024, in early 24 before August. It still affected the market. After they did it, it took a little bit and then it fell off a cliff. And people, because the bond yields kept rising. So if you want to go look at something, I always look at the JPY, the 10-year. When it gets back over 2, we're already in the danger zone. They're already pinned with their back against the wall. If that continues to run rapidly, they're really just trying to play catch up with the interest rates rising. So for those who don't know what bonds are, like they're trying to guess what the bond yield is going to be that far out of the term of the bond. Okay, so then 10 years, they think that the Japanese bonds are going to be 2%. Very reasonable because they're 50 basis points now. That means over the next decade, they're going to raise another 1.5%. I think it's going to be much higher than that. I think that Japan could likely get back to 5 or 6% interest rates in 10 years. Now, anyway, so if they raise 25 basis points, I think it'll be more of a trickle. It's not going to be a flood. If they move 50 or 75 basis points, it's gangbusters. Like the reverse carry trade unwinds right then. I think they could push it. I think they could push it over the weekend. So might be a happy Monday. 21st might be a happy Monday. Is that the winter solstice? No, it's 22nd. 22nd. Sunday is the winter solstice. So, you know, right before Christmas, and just coincidentally, you know, I don't want to mention this. Friday will be 5 years since Brad Garlinghouse posted on Twitter that the SEC was going to sue Ripple. Sunday will be 5 years since that lawsuit actually was filed by Jay Clayton on his last day in office before he bounced in 2020. Tinfoil hat, if you guys want it. Bamboo takes 5 years to grow. And you water it, you do a bunch of stuff, it takes a long time, and then it sprouts 60 feet in the air in a matter of weeks. And it's about 5 years. there's been a couple references by a few people to Bamboo in the last 5 years at Ripple and other instances. Wouldn't it be interesting if, just about 5 years after the lawsuit was filed, we saw XRP skyrocket like Bamboo would growing out of the ground? Things that make you go, Again, 15 days. We got 15 days till the end of the year here. And I posted cool as a cucumber over there on Twitter. I'm not sweating it. And anybody else out there that doesn't understand what's going on. What? God, you guys with the names. Whale Balls 25 says, how is 3 digits end of year possible when T0 settlement from NASDAQ won't be ready until Q2? So that's false. T0 settlement is ready right now. It was ready as of last year on May 28th. Actually, when they moved to T+1, it actually stated that they had the option to move to T+0 utilizing a digital asset when they passed that to move to T+1. So it's been ready for a whole since May of 24, May, June, July, August, September, November, December. So 12 plus 17, 12 plus 19 months. That's interesting. Been talking about this stuff for 18 months. Anyway, so yeah, they're absolutely can settle the back end of the stock market. It doesn't mean what they're talking about for Q2 or late Q2 is full tokenization of the stock market. That's when that's going to happen. You're going to have the Texas Stock Exchange launch early next year here in Dallas. We're about 6 blocks away from the office. And NASDAQ, New York Stock Exchange, Texas Stock Exchange, all of those will be tokenized mid Q2, late Q2, early Q3 next year. Texas Stock Exchange is going to start with exchange traded products for the first half of the year, and then they'll move into, single stocks toward the end of 2026. I'm going to put one on my bingo card for 2026, and that's going to be a Ripple IPO. And my other piece of that is they IPO on the Texas Stock Exchange. And I think they will be the largest IPO in history. And I think it'll also be a direct listing. I don't think it'll be a traditional IPO. I think it'll be a direct listing on the Texas Stock Exchange, the largest initial public offering of any company ever. So put that one on the bingo card for 2026. And hopefully we'll get to black out our card here in 2025. I think we will. Nick says, hey, legend. Appreciate everything that you do. Thank you, man. I appreciate you in the super chat. So just wanted to say God bless you and your family. Because of you, I feel more positive about XRP. Good, dude. You should. I know there's a lot of FUD out there. There's a lot of people that, again, I sit in a unique, in a very blessed position. I'm super humbled all the time. I've been able to have conversations with people that I revere, I hold in a very high regard, and ask them questions about things and see their visceral response to questions, and also understand the actual architecture and infrastructure that's being built and what applications it's going to be used for. Wild, surreal most of the time, to be honest with you. And so I just have a very unique perspective on this that other people, anybody can read stuff on the internet, right? And not to say that everything on the internet's true. We know that it's not. And also people, and I'm guilty of this at times too. So just, sometimes I live in an echo chamber. I have biases toward things. As long as people are willing to have a intellectual debate and not degrade the conversation, I always entertain new data. And I have been swayed at different points on different topics and changed my opinion. I think that is a mark, you know, and again, not to call myself intelligent, but I try to be, somebody that is able to receive new data and then change their opinion on something, I think should garner respect from people. If you are entrenched in your ways, and I'm not saying it's wrong to have biases either, like you need biases in order to make decisions. So you have to have discernment and be able to make a choice. You can't be wishy-washy and, well, this or that, and you know, you get paralysis by analysis. Nobody likes that. It's not good for anybody. So you have to be able to make decisions. But if you, I like two-way doors. This is the way Jeff Bezos explains this. There's one-way door decisions, and then there's two-way door decisions. Most decisions are two-way doors. You can go out, and if it doesn't work, you can come back in. Okay? There are some decisions that are one-way doors. If you make that call, if you make that decision, you better be right about it, because it is, once you go through that door, you can't go back the other way. But investing most of the time is a two-way door, right? Like I was talking to one of the best hedge fund managers I know the other day, and he was like, we try something, if it doesn't work, then we stop doing it. And we try something else. I'm like, some of the smartest people I know, this is their game plan. And it's obviously much more intelligent the way they go about it than that. But like at the base level, that is what it is. All right. Appreciate you, man. And I'm glad that you're able to feel better about it. I think, you know, I was put here for a reason. I feel very guided, and it's to help people. This person says that they tried to check out the mastermind site, and it's working now. So I guess there was a lot of people that tried to jump on. Oh, and I need to mention this because I didn't earlier, and we're already like an hour in. Again, I don't like to be the sales guy. I've never been the used car sales guy. I don't like to high pressure sell people. I'm more of a relationship, long deal. And you guys have been asking great questions. But I do want to pause for a second and talk about this. Today is the last day for $2 in the mastermind. Okay. So the code, you know, that we've been giving out for forever on here, it was free, and then it was $2. The code's going away after today. It will be full price for all tiers in the mastermind moving forward. There will be no, you know, trial period effectively. So if you have been wanting to try the mastermind, check it out, see if it's cool for you or not. Again, no contract, month to month. If you don't like it, cancel anytime. It is through Discord. So just know that there was a little bit of a learning curve for me. But if you want to check it out, again, it is beyondbroke.com, and just go use the code BeyondBroke, all capitalized, the number 1, and then MO like Mary Oscar. So BeyondBroke 1, MO like month, all capitalized, get you the first month for $2. And tonight is the last night. So if you want to check that out, today is the 15th. I told you guys last week, today is the last day. This person says the mastermind rocks. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. We have 15,000 fantastic members in there. We are locking it down on the other side of price appreciation. On the other side of $10, it'll be invite only. Price points will be substantially higher. We have a really good culture, in real life events, private deals. We've got insurance. It's a health share plan for everybody in there. We have ways that, unique ways to be able to leverage your digital assets that you're not going to get anywhere else. Tons of great content and information around financial education. So if that sounds cool to you, we'd love to have you in there. Today's the last day for $2 for both Carbon One and Social. If you use the code BeyondBroke, all capitalized, the number 1, and then MO like Mary Oscar, $2 at beyondbroke.com. And I'll just mention it one more time before we get off. Again, I don't like to hard sell people. That's not my game, but today is the last day for that. We got Trish. She says, can I use DWP if I set up my LLC with digital clause in the operating agreement in New York? Taxes are a lot here in New York, so Wyoming will not really help. You do have to file a foreign entity there in New York. Any of the super liberal states that have a bunch of state tax, they're not going to let you like squeak by. However, you can use the full breadth of the tax code. You're going to get the anonymity and you're going to get the creditor protection if you set up the Wyoming LLC. Adding a clause to the operating agreement, I'm assuming you already have a New York entity, is what you're saying, and you're just going to add a clause. There's a lot of clauses that we add to the operating agreement to protect you and make sure that you're structured the right way to hold digital assets and not have the tax implications of moving the assets in there. And they also, the way that we structure it gives you a lot of liberty for things that you can do with the assets versus, just adding one line to your operating agreement. You might contact an attorney in Wyoming if you wanted that type of language to put in your New York LLC, but the regulations in New York are very stringent around crypto. You have to have a BIT license in order to be able to operate there. It's just not a crypto-friendly state. And that's why we structure things in Wyoming. So I would, if I were you, you're still going to have to, it's not going to save you a ton on taxes, but you are going to be able to operate much more efficiently and legally in a regulated way if your assets are held in a Wyoming-based LLC versus a New York-based LLC. We got Bob Jenkins. He says, Jake, the Legend King. You guys kill me. I will take the compliments. I will take the compliments. I'm just a regular dude. I brush my teeth same way you guys do, put my pants on the same way. I'm not better than anybody else. I really appreciate the compliments, but again, I'm not anybody's daddy. I'm my son's daddy. I'm just on here to help people, hang out, have a good time, and enjoy this ride with you guys. So thank you for the kind words in the super chat. I'm thinking about fasting until XRP reaches $10. Crazy? I want to lose weight. This could be a good, fun game. All right. So for those that don't know, I was a bodybuilder until 2019. And I've done every kind of diet that you could possibly think of. Keto, carnivore, OMAD, high carb, low carb, high fat, low fat, high protein, low protein, whatever you want. I've done it all. I've tried it all. The longest documented fast in history was 386 days, so longer than a year. The gentleman started out at 400 plus pounds and dieted down to 180 pounds. He was under medical supervision the entire time. They gave him water and electrolytes, minerals, in order to be able to make sure that he maintained health while he fasted. He also lost all of his loose skin. Interesting. A lot of people that lose weight very rapidly tend to have a lot of loose skin because of the autophagy. His body actually assimilated, the excess skin. So, I think it's a very effective tool. If you're below 12, 13% body fat, you should fast pretty sparingly. If you're, 18, 20, 24% body fat, sure, fast it up, enjoy it. Your body's got plenty of fatty acids to burn through and metabolize. People have been, and again, I don't want to recommend any hormones or supplemental use here. I'm not a doctor. Always speak with a doctor before taking any performance enhancing drugs. Rituderide is very interesting. I've been looking at that for curbing hunger, and also it's muscle sparing. Obviously anabolic steroids and a lot of other stuff. Go work with a doctor if you are going to go on a longer term fast. Make sure you're under supervision, understand what it entails, and where you're going to have deficiencies, and make sure that you're getting electrolytes, magnesium, salt, sodium, and other minerals that you're going to need in order to be able to function and maintain your body while you're putting that type of stress on it. I don't think you have to wait that long for $10 though. Like I said, I'm confident. I'm 99% confident in the next 2 weeks we see 100. So, I fast it up. um, let's see here. A couple more super chats. I'm probably not going to get to all the super chats. I always say this about an hour in. If you've sent me a super chat, or if you're here now, probably don't send more super chats. I feel really bad when I don't get to them. If you do send it and I don't get it, I don't answer it, you can always DM me over there. Actually, they turned that off. I can't take DMs on Discord anymore. So other social media channels, if you want to just comment on, actually just get on Twitter. Comment on Twitter and tell me I didn't get your super chat. And if you do that, I will answer it right there, because I see most of the comments on Twitter. I don't get to all of them. I'm not perfect, but I try to get to most people. Lori says, my tax accountant is recommending I change my LLC from holding to business so that I can write off like startup LLC. I'm in Wyoming with no state tax. Is that okay to do that? It won't be a disregarded entity. If your assets are already in there, you're probably okay. So if you've already moved it in there as a holding company and you wanted to restructure as a operating business, I don't know what your operating business is though, right? So that's why we structured as a holding company that manages alternative investments. I would probably leave the holding company as an LLC. We have worked with people and structured a trading company underneath that LLC. So that LLC owns all of the interest. Well, I wouldn't even do it that way, because you might want to transition that holding company to a C Corp later on, depending on how much money you're making. So I would set up a separate LLC with the assets in it as the operating business. And then I would use your first LLC and have a contract between that LLC and the other LLC for management. And you could roll the fees up to that holding company. But then if somebody were to, if you change it to, I know this is complicated and I'm probably going on a tangent here that people don't care about. If you change it to a C Corp later on and somebody's in a lawsuit with you and they take control of your stock, you don't want their ability to be able to liquidate the assets in the other LLC. And again, sounds like you have a competent attorney. I would work with them there in Wyoming. Rocket HL, they say, can you explain the short back and forth with Vincent? I know XRP has clarity, but does he think no price appreciation before the Clarity Act? Can you explain what he's missing in some depth? Thanks for your answer. I'm not going to throw shade on anybody. I was very nice. I said, I think Vincent's extremely intelligent. I've watched some of his videos. He obviously doesn't know who I am at all and hasn't watched any of my content, which I'm nobody, right? I'm some guy on the internet. He doesn't need to know who I am. But I did know, I was actually educated on the topic before I engaged in the conversation. Like I've talked about before, there's this Goldilocks period here for XRP in particular before the Clarity Act is passed, because we have the not congressional legislation, but case law that XRP in and of itself is not a security. We have it listed on Bitnomial as a commodity. And we've now got futures and all of the other ways to be able to use it as collateral and for derivatives. It's the one thing that has the high enough transactional value. So the only three options right now, if the reverse carry trade unwinds, is Bitcoin, ETH, or XRP. Which one of those has the highest TPS and lowest cost? I'll give you a clue. It's XRP. So in the interim here, and he's like, well, institutions aren't going to adopt this and use this. And I get that. I was literally in DC lobbying with the congressman to get them to pass the Genius Bill and the Clarity Act. If somebody is that strongly opinionated, they should have been right there next to me doing the same thing. Vincent's not there. He's talking on videos, which is great. He's informing people. I think he's doing a good job. I would rather do than talk personally. So I'm going to go where I need to go, meet the people I need to meet in order to be able to make things actually happen. And again, I'm not poo-pooing on Vincent. There's a lot of people that are this way. My dad was this way before he passed away. Okay. And that's probably why I'm like strong on this. He was upset with how things are. Rightly so. There's a lot of problems. Getting off of social media or calling your congressman, excuse my French, but it doesn't do shit. They don't care. You have no clout. You have no leverage. You didn't back them. You're not going to be able to make a difference. You have to have money. You have to have a network. You have to be respected. You have to have board seats. You have to be in positions with leverage in order to affect change. That's where I want to go. I want a seat at the table to actually help people. I do this. I enjoy this. I talk to you guys. Y'all ask fantastic questions. Me getting on here and getting on a soapbox isn't going to change the world. Us together, we can, but it's going to require action. It's going to require leverage. It's going to require people actually doing things, going places, making stuff happen. So I hope he starts doing that. I would love to see him in DC advocating for this stuff, being on the councils, because I think he is sharp. I think he's extremely intelligent. I just think he's fallen victim to the fact that, gets on social media and talks and it feels like you're making a difference. But in fact, the world is going to change irrespective of what you want. And unless you're in the rooms helping to make those decisions, you don't get a say. So anyway, that's the short exchange that we had. My opinion is that XRP will appreciate before the Clarity Act is passed during this Goldilocks period. I knew that it would get kicked to 26. I've been saying that for the whole year almost. And we're still going to see price appreciation on XRP before the Clarity Act gets passed. And then it'll be cemented. It'll also be in place by time there's competition. That's my opinion. And that's, I don't want to say I know that's what's going to play out, but I'm 99.99999% sure. We've got 19 trades. They say I'm 22 in Thailand with 14,000 XRP. Crushing it, dude. Well done. After price appreciation, I got no one to call. I only know you and your firm. Do you have a plan to come and set up DWP in Singapore? Would love to work with your firm and shake your hand one day. Yes, we actually do. So that's on a roadmap for 26. Couple different international jurisdictions. One of those is Singapore. So would love to work with you when the time comes, my man. And we will be there. It's going to take us a little bit. We got to get the licenses and do all the same stuff that we did here in the US. We've got to set up over there. So it's not like it's an overnight thing. There's a lot of compliance and red tape, and that's why stuff takes longer, but you got to do it that way if you're going to be around. It can't just be just fly by night, spin up a DeFi protocol and hope you don't go to jail type stuff. It's got to be regulated on point, with the regulators and have the level of compliance that's required in order to operate in the fashion that we do. I do too respond to messages from people on here. It's just not very often. Crypto Weewo. This is on TikTok. She was saying he doesn't care about us. I do care about you guys, but people give me super chats. They pay me money over here on Twitter, and I feel like a dick if I don't answer those first. If there was a way for you guys, and like, I'm not, again, when I first started doing these, nobody paid, and I was happy then too. I got on here every week, answered all the questions, did the same thing. But if people are going to pay money, like, I feel very obligated to answer that question. So that's why I spend the majority of my time over here. Honest Aim, there he is. Good to see you guys. They say, hey, Mr. Legacy and the Tea Lady, thanks for all that you do for the mastermind. Can't say enough about the value you provide with products and services. Tremendous value to us and our future generations. Blessings. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. Wish you guys a Merry Christmas. Thanks for taking out the time. I really enjoyed it. So, again, back to the mastermind. Today is the last day if you want to be part of that community. If you're going to get in for $2, it'll be full price moving forward. And in the very near future, we are just going to lock it down. Because we're really, like, I won't say we're at capacity, but 15,000 people is a lot of people. We want to make sure that they are well taken care of and protected. And we're going to start implementing those things. If you do want to join over here, Munz has asked, you go to beyondbroke.com and use the code BeyondBroke, all capitalized, the number 1, and then MO like Mary Oscar, gets you the first month for $2. And tonight is the last night that that's available. We may let it linger. I'll just be honest. You probably be able to use it tomorrow, but please don't wait. We are going to shut it off. Anthony Nick D says, hello, Master and T-Lady. Thanks for all that you do. I'm a DWP client. My son has about 3,000 XRP. What are the pros and cons? One, taking his bag and adding it to mine and slowly helping it in after price appreciation, or wait to price appreciation and he becomes his own DWP client. Depends on how interwoven you want the family to be. We can set up a separate account under your name if it's in a separate org. If you wanted to set up a separate org for your son where he's on the cap table and you're on the cap table, I don't know when he bought that XRP. If he's down on it, you could create a partnership between you and him and actually capitalize the losses right now in 2025 before the end of the year. It's not going to be much on 3,000 XRP, but and it really won't be much gains either. Probably not. Both ways are probably fine. So you could, you just spin up an organization where you guys are partners on it and put it in there, and then you can onboard it into DWP because you're already a client. If you wanted to segregate it out, if you wanted to add it to your corporation, there would be tax liabilities for him based on the appreciation of whatever his basis was and what the asset currently is today when he contributes it to the company, and then he exchanges that XRP for the equity in the company. So I don't know how much XRP you have, but he would own a small minority stake in your company based on the amount of XRP that he's contributing. So if it's 100,000 XRP that you have, and he adds 3,000, he would have like 2 point something % of the company, if that makes sense. Talk to Laughlin. If you're working with Laughlin, talk to them, and I'm pretty sure that they could figure that out for you. This person says, hey, Jake, what do you think oil spiked before or after Bank of Japan meeting? Thanks for all that you do. I don't know. I just know it's in the last little bit of this year here. Is it before? Is it after? I think they could raise and then pin them against a wall next week or over the weekend with oil. I think it's going to be bam, bam, bam. Like, you're going to have interest rates, you're going to have Bank of Japan, you're going to have Epstein, and then the last piece of that I think is going to be BlackRock. But those are the last 3 things on my bingo card for 2025. Taco Jeepo says, legend. What's up, dude? What exactly will happen this year for 3 digits? I want to believe so much. I just explained it to you, my man. If you listen to the bingo card, you're going to know what's going to happen. If you haven't watched my Domino Theory, go back and check that out. It is the perfect storm situation that looks extremely likely like it's going to play out here at the end of 2025 for XRP to have a meteoric rise in a very short period of time to 3 and 4 digits. Calcim says, can you clarify your relationship with Jim Rickards and why you trust him and his prediction? Did he really advise agencies as he claims? Yeah, he advised agencies as he claims. Is that like okay? You think he's a plant, or like I don't understand. I mean, maybe he's the front man to tell the public, right? They have to tell us when stuff's going to happen. It's got to be out there for people that are going to listen to it. Yeah, I don't know him personally. I do have a good friend that went to dinner with him not too long ago and asked him a few questions and relayed those to me, which was nice. But outside of that, I do trust him. If you worked with the U.S. government and are also skeptical of the Fed, yeah, very, very much trust you. We've got Warbide. Thank you for the super chat. They say, "Hey Jake, I've been trying to get info from Beyond Broke and DWP. What should I do before explosion? But nothing. Preparing documents, etc. Citizen of Estonia, by the way. All the best to you and your family." Thank you, man. I don't know where Estonia is. I am not the best at geography. It looks like a beautiful country. It's right below Finland. Okay, so you're on. Are you part of the EU? I mean, you're right outside of Russia. Lithuania, and then Latvia, and then Estonia. So, yeah, you're up there by the Baltic Sea. So we work with people that structure stuff in Cyprus, which is probably the closest. Well, we do Sweden. We can do Sweden, and that's right there next to you. No, not Sweden. Switzerland. Messing up again. Not great with geography. So probably Switzerland is going to be the closest jurisdiction for you, because we do Cyprus, Switzerland, and Portugal. But you're part of the EU, so we could structure it there. We just need to get you in contact with the right people. Do support at Digital Family Office. So you said mastermind beyond this. Anything to do with the estate planning and taxes and all that's always going to be the family office piece. So DWP is wealth management. Beyond Broke is the mastermind. Digital Family Office or Digital Ascension Group is the family office, and it does the estate planning, taxes, legacy planning, all of that stuff. So email info or support at digitalfamilyoffice.io. We already went over this one. I'm running out of time here. We're going to hang out for another 30 minutes or so, and they're going to wrap it up tonight. We got Michael. He says, "Hey, Jake, I just joined the mastermind, and I'm all in. I do 401k plans, so I know what's coming. What's your view on BlackRock?" Thankful for you. Again, in a weird spot. Like I can, I don't know how much I could say and not become a problem. I think BlackRock is a lot more involved with all of this than people really realize. And it sounds, based on your question, that you probably know that too. The way that I would relate this to people is, after 2008, we had the GFC, right? And in the GFC, we had a lot of problems. It was a recession here in the US. People lost jobs. It was a bad deal for years. Wasn't like the Great Depression, not quite as long. Still pretty bad. So what's BlackRock was put in place basically to hold up the economy. China can buy stocks directly. Their government can buy stocks or whatever they need to do. They don't need a proxy. BlackRock kind of sits in that position as the public-private partnership between the U.S. government and stability in markets. And they use them to repackage the debt over the past 20 years in order to, take a little bit of bad debt and put it with a bunch of good debt and then sell it off. And the bad debt's still going to go bad, but there's enough good debt around it that it's not going to crumble the financial products. That's only going to go on for so long. They're going to continue to have to print money in order to do that. So you need some way to be able to reset the monetary system. In the past, when they've done that, they've, it took gold from the American people, and then they repriced gold, and then they used that as a peg to back the dollar. There's not enough gold at this point for the amount of M2 money supply that there is. And you could say, cool, we could have a huge reduction in, the M2 money supply, which I think we will have some, or a deflationary collapse, which is also bad. You need some way to jumpstart the economy and also reprice things, and be able to offset the monetary obligations. Because there's a ton of boomers and people that have large financial plans, pension plans, 401k, IRAs, and if they get a 50% haircut here or more, and it's not the same value, so like a 50% drawdown in stocks by itself is bad because the cost of living stays the same. But if we get a cost of living drop alongside that, relatively, you're still just as wealthy, right? I think that the latter piece of that is what's going to happen when they shore things up with our currency, and we have, instant settlement. And they're also going to be a revaluation of assets on balance sheets. So you have all these huge unrealized losses today on investment banks' balance sheets and governments' balance sheets. If they had an asset, they're not even going to have to reprice it. They just start to have to use it, right? And they can, through a supply and demand shock, they can push the price to the level they need it to be in markets. It can be a short squeeze on XRP effectively. And then once it's a high enough price, they can start using it to be able to settle value and maintain a price floor at that level. And then that asset is on their balance sheet at this, much higher price to offset the liabilities. So I don't know if I kept you, there. That was a lot to go through very quickly for macroeconomics. But that's the gist of what they've been assigned to do and how they're going to do it. This person says, blessings, Jake. Thank you for the super chat. They say, how catastrophic can it be for the little guy who has no knowledge of crypto? Again, blessings to you and yours. Thank you for the kind words. The little guy that has no knowledge of crypto. I just put out a video about this if you guys want to go check it out. The asymmetric bets that have existed in the economy where people get rich in a very short period of time. And when I say short period of time, I mean 5 to 10 years. Those opportunities are going away. They've migrated to private equity. They used to be in public stocks. In the 1980s, there were 8,000 publicly traded companies. Today, there's only 4,000 publicly traded companies. Half in 40 years. And the reason is most companies are staying private longer. They don't have to go public in order to raise money. Used to, if you wanted $100 million, you had to be listed on the public stock exchange. Now you can go to VCs, you can go to family office, you can go to private equity funds. There's lots of ways and access to capital that you just didn't have previously. And so because of that reason, I mean, you see unicorns stay private. You've got SpaceX that's still private. You've got Ripple that's still private. 40 years ago, that's not a possibility. They wouldn't have been able to grow at the scale that they have been without being a publicly traded company. So I think that trend is going to continue. I think less and less companies will want the public listing because of the scrutiny and costs that come along with it. It's a ton of scrutiny, and it's going to cost you a couple $1 million a year just to service all the providers in order to be able to meet the qualifications needed to be listed on the New York Stock Exchange or the NASDAQ. People just don't want to do it. They're like, you know what? That's too much extra crap, and it's a bunch of extra cost for not that much benefit. I'll just stay private and raise money, Series A, B, C, D, E, F, G, whatever they need in order to be able to scale and eventually get acquired or sold to a large conglomerate like Google or Alphabet or one of these other publicly traded companies that's already gigantic. And so alongside that, with a regression to the mean in markets, because the efficiencies they're going to be created, the little guy's not going to ever get out of the hole. The only way to get rich in that type of system is going to be, I can see his name. I can see his face. I don't like the way he talks about things. I can't think of his name. Dave Ramsey. There you go. So Dave Ramsey does a fantastic job of helping the average person get to wealth, but it's over 20 or 30 years. I think that's going to be the only way that you can do it on an asset-backed system. The leverage and ability to pay off your debt with cheaper currency isn't going to exist in the future. That's been a huge leverage point for people that have understood how debt worked and used it as a tool over the past 70 years. Like, well, not 70 years, 50 years. 1971 was when we moved off the gold standard. And since then, we've had floating exchange rates, and they've been able to print in perpetuity. And so if you borrowed, you know, in the 80s at high interest rates and then got to refinance the whole way down as they lowered interest rates all the way to 08, you built huge amounts of wealth because your assets appreciated while the currency was being devalued, and you were paying off the debt notes that were supposed to be, you know, even with cheaper money over time, because where you borrowed, the money was worth more, and later on when you paid it back, the money was worth less. That's not going to exist in the future. You're not going to have that arbitrage because currencies are going to be backed. So I think the little guy, if he's not taking advantage of this stuff right now, him and his family, her and her family, it's possible. There will always be possibilities in business to generate large amounts of value for a lot of people and do really well. As far as investing, though, like, it's going to be a slow, steady climb after all this stuff gets implemented. So I don't know if that, again, was the answer you were looking for. That's the answer I got this evening. Carl, my man, good to see you, dude. He says, do you think the bottom is in? Friday is the day for the big domino to fall. Chance of a $1 XRP, 0 to 100%. Thanks, as always. There's always a chance. There's going to be volatility. Bitcoin is going to fall substantially. I don't know if you can catch that falling knife. I think we will see $1 on XRP. I'll say that. I think we are going to see a big move down in XRP when everything falls, but I think it'll rebound, it'll rip as soon as it falls. I don't know how low it's going to go. I think there'll be a wick, and then she's off to the moon. So I'm not playing that game. I'm buying here. I think right now is a fantastic opportunity. I'm buying daily. If you want to roll the dice, if you feel like you've already got plenty and you want to try to put in a fat buy order at $1 and hope that you catch that falling knife, more power to you. I'd rather have it in and know that I'm good. Tiddlywinks. Taking from some things you've said in order to, in your other lives, paraphrasing, I'm living in the future where XRP has reached price appreciation. Are you into higher awareness, quantum field type meditation in your faith? Yes. Yes. I believe that you attract things into your life. The more you focus on things, and you don't even have to know how you're going to get them. That's been the hardest piece for me, like being as logical as I am. You're like, well, I want this thing. I can focus on this thing. I don't know how I'm going to get it. But the more you focus on something, the universe, God, whatever you want to call it, moves things into your life. And they may have already been there anyway, but you're aware of them, right? Because that's where your focus is. And so you're able to actualize those things and take action on them rather than just letting them pass by. There's been a lot of instances in my life where, and my wife will even tell you, she's like, I think you're crazy. You write stuff down all the time. And it's almost like chanting type stuff, where I write the same thing over and over and over again, at least once a day. I don't sit there and do it, in tandem or in like a trance or anything, but enough to make sure that my mind's on that. And that's what I'm thinking about for the majority of the day. If you've ever read Think and Grow Rich, there's so many books that talk about that. If you live in abundance and you believe that good things are coming to you and that's what you focus on and you have goals and that's what you're staring at and you're thinking about on a daily basis, those things needed for that attainment come toward you. So yeah, there are laws of the universe that I don't understand. I don't have to understand them. It's just like my email. I don't have to understand how my email gets from you to me or me to you. I just use it. And that's kind of the same thing this is. Like, I don't have to understand the quantum field or the mechanics behind it or any of the other stuff. I just know it works. And every time that I do it, I'm going to keep doing it because it keeps working. So, appreciate the super chat, and hopefully that's helpful. I'm going to go to the bottom and work my way back up. And I'm sure my buddy, old Living Legacy, will send me any extra super chats. Oh, he already has. So I'll go ahead and get these. We did that one. We've got John, Mr. Shook. He says, celebrating 18 years of marriage tonight with my beautiful bride, sending love from Nevada. Let's go, price appreciation. Congratulations, my man. That is a long time. I would love to get your secret to a happy marriage. Sounds like you guys are still in love after all that time, which is beautiful. So congratulations to you guys. Thank you for the super chat. And I'm also very ready for the price appreciation. Marin 801 says, legend. Carbon One, loving the mastermind. I just want to say thank you to you and the Tea Lady and your family for letting us have so much of your time with you and for everything that you do and DAG are doing to help us with our financial freedom. God bless. Thank you so much. I get tons of fulfillment from this. Like I would not rather be anywhere else in the world than here. I mean, I love my family. Don't get me wrong. I feel the same way when I'm with them. But like I've told you guys, I feel really called to do this and help people and build things and make sure that you have all the stuff you need to be able to preserve this wealth and grow this wealth for you and your family for generations. Like I could have built it selfishly and just had it all to myself, but that sucks. I've talked about this before. Like getting rich alone is lame. Like flying to your private island on your private jet by yourself, cool. Who are you going to do it with? Like who else is in a position to be able to do that with you and do cool stuff with and create cool memories with? That's what the legacy that I want to leave from the mastermind. Again, we want to help 1 million people become financially free, but we're doing that by cultivating this culture and financial freedom and education and understanding of all these financial products and solutions that we're creating for crypto, so that all these people have the advantages that they can use in their family office or their generational planning to ensure that these assets are passed down for multiple generations and benefit their families. So thank you for the kind words and being part of the community. And again, if you guys want to be part of 186 is what they're saying XRP's at. Well, I'm gonna have to buy some after we get off here. If you want to be part of the mastermind, we would love to have you. Today is the last day for $2. So if you are a little guy, we've had this open for the little guy for 3 years. I've done everything that I can to make sure that anybody and everybody would have an opportunity to participate in this community and get the upside and the culture and all the benefits that we're providing. I've tried to create more value in this mastermind than I've ever received in any other community I've ever been a part of. Still to this day, I've paid $30,000, $50,000, $3,000, $5,000, $10,000 to be part of other groups. We provide more value, hands down. So if you are a little guy and you want to be part of something cool, it's month to month. If you don't like it, you can leave at any time. We've got 15,000 people that think it's cool enough to stay every single month. Just go to beyondbroke.com and use the code beyondbroke, all capitalized, the number 1, and then MO like Mary Oscar, or the abbreviation for month. So beyondbroke 1 MO, all capitalized, get you the first month for $2. And tonight is the last night that code will work. We got Crypto Phantom. They say, Carbon One, I've been following since the Brothers Blood days. Thanks for all that you do. Appreciate you, man. There's been so many different groups that I've been a part of over the years. So many good people, a lot of good Australians and foreign people that I've been able to meet through Twitter, and have interesting conversations about the riddles and all the stuff. You know, been fun. Thank you guys. It's gonna be even more fun post price appreciation. Kurt, my man, he also says because it's the winter solstice, those that understand what they own and are paying attention. Christmas will be very X with no E sighting from the Megazord. Appreciate you, my brother. And he paid $122. Thank you so much for the super chat. 1221 is the winter solstice. Shout out to Max Avery, business partner. I won't say why on here, but shout out to him. Excited. Met him on his birthday 3 years ago for the first time in person, and my life has never been the same since. So, been a wild ride, and it's just the beginning. We'll go ahead and answer a few more super chats, and then we're going to wrap it up tonight here. We got about another 20 minutes before we lock it down. Got Crypto Clay. He says, love you, Roger M. Thank you, Jake, for all that you do. USA, Mickle Mafia for life. Appreciate you, man. Thank you for the super chat, being here, and all the support. We got MK. He says, why do I need an LLC? I have my XRP in cold storage. When I want to sell, I can just transfer from exchange. What am I missing? I'm in Canada. So here in the US, an LLC provides you the full breadth of the tax code to be able to offset the tax implications, depending on how you're going to use that money after you sell it. So you're going to have long-term or short-term capital gains there in Canada, depending on the amount of money that you're selling. It would behoove you, substantially to have it inside of a corporation or offshore. You can reach out to Aaron Grinhaus. His email, if you are Canadian and you want to structure it the right way to mitigate taxes, he's a tax attorney there in Toronto. He can help you regardless of which, it's not quadrants, jurisdictions. I don't know. My wife's yelling at me something, but I can't hear. Anyway, there's a bunch of different places in Canada. They're like states. They're not called states, though. And he can help you irrespective of which one you're in. So I would reach out to him. His email is aaron@grinhauslaw.ca. That's Aaron at AARON at grinhauslaw.ca. And I also have multiple videos here on YouTube that he's in that you can go check out as well. We've got Living for Giving. Very cool name. I think I've said that before, but just, again, very good name. Jake, you don't fully realize the long-term implication on all of us that you're helping. Thank you, man. All the fruit, charitable giving, change lives. You have a claim to all the good that ensues. Thank you. I'm at a loss for words, man. I don't have a claim to any of it. Again, I feel very guided to do this. This is you guys. Like, I want people to be able to live and walk in their highest path and do all the things that they were put here to do. This is the resource that allows them to do that. And if I can be a steward, if I can be the conduit, if I can build something that allows people to have this, keep it, and grow it, to make sure that they're able to accomplish those things, that's what I'm compelled to do. So I don't feel a claim to any of it. I am just genuinely here to help people. And there's some selfish component to that too, right? Like, we make money, I do well for myself and my family. But it's always in alignment. One of our core values for my family and also for our corporation is to be selfishly selfish. So we always want to make sure that the other person wins before we win. We want to win too, but how do we make it a win-win scenario for everybody to win? And that's why we do the AUM fees. I know that's like kind of backwards, right? You're like, well, if you wanted us to win, you wouldn't pay the AUM fees. We only win and make more money if you hold your assets and they grow over time. We don't make any money if you sell. We have the lowest sell cost of anybody. We do 20 basis points with no spread. We make no money if you sell. And then you're probably going to take that cash and go do other stuff with it. We want you to grow your wealth with us, right? And that's why we've structured the fees the way that we have. And again, you know, I think in the near future, we're going to be able to offset those very easily with some of the products they're going to be rolling out in January. So very excited. Thank you for the kind words. And yeah, I feel very blessed to be in a position to help other people accomplish their goals and dreams and the things that God's put them here to do. We've got Ernie. I like it. He says, Jake, thank you for the guidance. Why does almost everyone say XRP price will only appreciate double digits and discount what you say? Other legit people covering XRP seem to think you're way off. Merry Christmas. There's always one crazy one. I'm okay with being the crazy one this time. Being realistic is the fastest path to mediocrity. I can see it, like clear as day, what's going to happen. I come on here every week and tell y'all. Other people, for whatever reason, don't want to believe that. They want to be more conservative in case they're wrong. I'm going to swing. I already told y'all that. If I see something and it's a fat pitch with a P and I'm going to hit it and it's lined up and it's coming right down the center, I'm going to swing as hard as I can. And that's what I get out here and do. I'm telling you guys, I can see it. My bingo card in 2025. We started out with that tonight, and that's probably how I'm going to end it here. Oil, BlackRock ETF for structured product, Epstein docs. I think all those could happen this week. We know Epstein's coming out Friday. We know BlackRock has some ETF ready to go. They filed the A8 for it. And oil is right at the resistance line. I'm not a chart guy, but every time it's hit this resistance line, it's had a huge spike to the upside. And that just happens to be the thing that'll back Japan into a corner and cause all of this to unwind. And it's an easy trigger for them to pull. Shut down the Strait of Hormuz. People said the world couldn't be shut down. That happened. What's the Strait of Hormuz? Just one little strait. You don't think they could orchestrate that? We'll see. I could not be more confident. I'm not moving the goalpost. Heels are in the ground. So it's going to happen or it's not. But apparently people are overloading the website. We want you in there. We're working on it. You will be able to get in. Try a little bit later tonight. Again, midnight, and we'll probably push it a little bit past that for the cutoff for people. But if you do want to join the mastermind, today is the last day for the $2. So look forward to seeing so many fantastic people in there. We have already just the best community I've ever been a part of. And again, today's the last day that you're able to get it's not a free month, but it's pretty close. $2. You get to try it out. If you don't like it, cancel it anytime, month to month. But I think there's a reason, like I said, 15,000 people are excited to be in there every single month and get the information that we provide. Mastermind is at beyondbroke.com. And you can use the code BeyondBroke, all capitalized, the number 1, and then MO gets you the first month for $2, and tonight's the last time for that. We got Beans. It's an interesting name. He said, "Hey man, you're great. Thank you. I appreciate the kind words. Love your stuff. Can you explain exactly how the reverse carry trade helps XRP go up in price?" High level, I call it the domino theory. I put it out 18 months ago. The Bank of Japan raises interest rates aggressively because of oil. I think is going to spike, and it's going to cause them to have to because of the inflation in their economy. That causes their bond rates to rise to the point where it's more advantageous to hold their own debt than the U.S. debt. So 1.2 to 1.6 trillion dollars of U.S. Treasuries flows onto the market. Luckily, this didn't happen last year, and they were able to stall it. Now that we have the stablecoin or the Genius bill that's been passed here in the U.S., we have enough demand to be able to soak up those treasuries for the issuance of stable coins. Bank of America, Citi, Goldman, all the big boys will soak up those treasuries, stabilize the bond market, but that doesn't help stocks. I think that you're also going to see Tether take a big hit. You're going to see Bitcoin drop, gold drop, which a 30% drop in both of those assets would cause Tether to depeg. It'll be a death spiral on Tether, in my opinion, which will have huge implications for the crypto market. They'll roll the BlackRock XRP ETF alongside the other ETFs. It'll hit a supply shock crisis moment where they've eaten all the XRP off of the exchanges, or all off of the OTC desk and the dark pools. They'll hit the exchanges for the last billion XRP that's available. Price will skyrocket, FOMO will ensue. Everybody else will be freaking out because the stock market and everything else is collapsing. They will move to back end. They'll move the back end of the stock market to instant settlement to be able to mitigate the risk and settle the Bitcoin ETFs real time to be able to de-risk from the situation that'll transpire there. And the only way they're going to be able to do that is to use XRP. So they're going to have to drive enough liquidity into it, around at least $100 per XRP, in order to be able to facilitate the settlement real time on the back end of the stock market. So that's my thesis. At a high level, there's a lot more nuance that goes into that. Again, Epstein and some of that stuff being tied to Bitcoin or Tether, I think will also have some implications for it. And there'll just be a lot of fun stuff that that'll unwind here in the very near future. Money Pit says, you mentioned XRP has to have enough liquidity in order to move value. What if the reverse carry trade happens before XRP is high enough in value? Not seeing ETF moving in time. They will push it. They will do what they need to push it. If this person doesn't stop requesting over here on TikTok, we got George. He says, Jake, should I go more all in on XRP for the next few weeks? I split my alt exposure across XRP, XLM, XDC, HBAR, Avalanche, and Link. I think those are all great positions. I'm bullish on all of those. I can't tell you what to do. I don't own anything besides XRP. That's all I got. I have like $2,000 in hash. That's a flyer for me, HASH. But that's my only investment that I've made outside of XRP in the past 3 years. So you do you. Whatever you feel like is best for you and your family. If you want to talk to a financial advisor, Digital Wealth Partners, they can tell you what to do. That's not me. We got Arzub. They say, hey, Jake, from State Farm. What's up, dude? What's your prediction on XRP going lower than what it is right now? Merry Christmas. It absolutely could. Again, with the volatility and the slow unwind that we're going to see the bleeding up till Friday. Sure. I think you could see it drop down. I'm not going to play with that fire. If I have liquidity, I'll buy. If I don't, then I miss the bottom, but I'm already in. I don't want to try to catch a falling knife. We got Breaking Seals. They say, Jake, hope you're well. Thank you, man. Appreciate that. Where do you think XRP still needs to improve technically to stay competitive long term? And at what price XRP reflect utility rather than market cycles? So $100 XRP is where I think it starts to reflect utility instead of market cycles. And I think, again, that'll come from supply and demand shock, supply shock on it to push it to that price that'll be orchestrated. Technical improvements. We need permission domains. We need permission decks. You need batch. There's a bunch of amendments that are currently proposed right now that need to be voted through in order for it to be able to work at scale for institutional adoption. Beyond that, XLS 64, 65, and 66 pseudo accounts, borrow, lend, and liquidity pools, I think are going to become hugely beneficial for the XRPL in Q1 next year. I think that that's when they're going to be put up for vote, and I think there will be oversight and integrations. I think that they'll, revise securities laws here in the U.S. to be able to operate with those, and they'll be integral to the financial system moving forward. Mista X says, "Hey Jake, more than a legend." Thank you, dude. Thank you for the kind words. So I just received confirmation from my LLC. Awesome. Glad to be working with you. I'm so stoked. Thank you. Blessings to you and your family and the mastermind community. Thank you, my man. So we didn't talk about that much tonight. Again, we are going to do away with the promo on the LLC in the very near future also. So, probably January, maybe sooner, just depends. The promo for the mastermind stops tonight. The promo on the LLC, very near future. Right now, you can get everything end to end for your LLC for $2,000 if you use the code Beyond Broke, all capitalized. Sorry, that's for the mastermind. If you want the LLC, you go to digitalfamilyoffice.io and use the code 50OFF50 OFFDAG LLC. They get you everything end to end to manage your digital assets, creditor protection, anonymity, corporate veil, registered agent, EIN, articles of organization, certificate of good standing, banking memorandum, all the stuff that you need to make sure that you're getting all the benefits from the LLC for $2,000. There was somebody else that posted the other day on Twitter that they paid $3,100 with an attorney there in Wyoming. Just the operating agreement that we provide alone is going to cost you somewhere between $1,800 and $2,500 from any attorney. So, we try to provide a huge amount of value for a very fair price. Again, if you want to use the code 50OFF50 OFFDAG LLC, if you want to do the living trust alongside that, it's $2,500. It's another $500 if you want the living trust, which is also the cheapest you're going to find a living trust. Nobody else does it that cheap. And we won't be doing it that cheap much longer. Not a whole lot of meat on the bone, not a whole lot of margins. We're trying to make sure people have opportunities and fair pricing and can get in this stuff, but post price appreciation, unless you're in the mastermind, you're not going to be getting these discounts. So, take one more super chat and then we're going to wrap it up. Now we got Steve. He says, "Hey Jake, what's your personal thought on Ken Clement's prophecy, possibly being XRP as an investment opportunity from 3/15/2011 video? If so, has the Lord shown you anything prophetically?" I am not a prophet. I'm never going to claim to be a prophet. That's like, I don't know. There are people that have visions and do stuff. Cool. I got nothing against that. It will never be my platform. I pray to Jesus every day. I walk with him. I have conversations. But I'm not a prophet. I'm not ordained. I'm not anointed. I'm not any of those things. Okay. So when other people come out and say, it's not my thing. Could it be that this guy saw something? Sure. I think he's going to end up being right if he said it was XRP back in 2011. But as far as God telling me, I've written some things down when I've been having conversations, but nothing prophetic other than like what I'm supposed to do. So, we got Camel, Camel. I say, "Blessings, legend. Can you please explain how circulating supply works for XRP, as it's a bit slowed compared to XLM that is increasing consistently?" Well, now that it's collateral, there's going to be less and less on the market. So over time, you know, in the burn rate, and they can't issue more. And they burnt half the supply of XLM. So XLM will do well too. I just think it's later. Back end settlement happens first, and peer-to-peer and merchant services happens 26, 27. That's when I think you're going to see a much bigger rise in HBAR and XLM and XDC. Will be, you know, mid to late 2026 into 27. I think XRP moves first, and that's why I'm positioned there. So again, non-financial advice, just my 2 cents. Website says it isn't working. Come back later tonight or early tomorrow. We'll probably let it linger for a while just to make sure that people that do want in can get in. We want to have, again, we want to provide as much value as we can. Our mission is to create, you know, help 1 million people become financially free. Our servers sometimes gets a little overloaded because we don't always have just a ton of traffic there on the website. So if you do want a financial advisor, again, that's going to help you with your crypto, we'd love to work with you at Digital Wealth Partners. Just go to digitalwealthpartners.net, use the contact us form. If you need the LLC to manage your digital assets and start structuring yourself for price appreciation, if you have at least $50,000 to $80,000 in your crypto portfolio, would highly recommend, even if you don't work with us, going to an attorney and structuring an LLC in Wyoming. Make sure they know what they're doing. We've done over 7,000 LLCs at this point, so we kind of know what we're doing. So if you want to work with us, it's $2,000 if you use the code 50OFF50 OFFDAG LLC at Digital Family Office. That's digitalfamilyoffice.io. And then last but not least, it sounds like the website's down right now. But if you do want to, you know, try to circle up later tonight, early tomorrow morning, we'll let it linger for a while. Use the code Beyond Broke, all capitalized, the number 1, and then MO like Mary Oscar, and you get the first month for $2 there in the mastermind. And this will be it. After the code is no longer available in the next 24 hours or less, we will never run any, you know, free months or, you know, low. It'll always be full cost, and then post price appreciation, it will be invite only. Rick, it's 50 off DAG LLC, like Digital Ascension Group Limited Liability Company. 50 off DAG LLC. Get you everything you need there, my man. Again, I appreciate you guys taking time out on your Monday night to come hang out with me and ask fantastic questions. If I missed your super chat, just reach me on other social media and I'll follow up with you. Thank you so much. And we will see you guys on Wednesday. I hope you have a wonderful week. Go out there, kick ass, take names, and we'll see you on the next one.